أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد. وأشهد أن محمدا سيدنا وحبيبنا أنه رسول الله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حتى أتاه اليقين، فصلوات ربي وسلامه عليه. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم التنزيل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises due to Allah subhanahu, the merciful, the beneficent. Wallahi, we bear witness that there is nothing worthy of worship except Him subhanahu, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was indeed the seal of prophets. We thank Allah Azza wa Jal for sending Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to us to guide us to the best of this dunya and the akhirah. Allah Azza wa Jal constantly reminds us with the concept of taqwa, and He says, O you who believe, ittaqullah, be conscious of Allah and do not die except in the state of Islam. And inshallah the topic will go around this inshallah Azza wa Jal for this khutbah, but we're going to inshallah Azza wa Jal deal with it with a more specific way, bimashiatillah Azza wa Jal. And the question probably that needs to be answered is, if anyone was to ask us, and I ask myself this question: have you had a heart check lately? Did you check your heart? And probably we haven't done it for a while. And I'm referring to the heart here, not the one that pumps blood into the bloodstream and nourishes the physical, but I'm referring to the heart, the same heart that nourishes the soul, the one that gets us closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. The same heart, subhanallah, Allah has created, and it does both purposes, the physical and the soul, the spiritual, if you will. If one was to ask this question, have you had a heart check lately? And subhanallah, probably a lot of us might have done it through activities and events, but to consciously sit and do this, we probably, for those of us that consciously do this, we probably do it in the days of Ramadan. That's the time when we have constant reminder, you need to check your heart, you need to check your heart. That's the time when it really comes in. But subhanallah, the importance of this is that the heart, my dear brothers and sisters, has actually a tendency to do evil acts. There's a tendency, وَإِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ, Allah Azza wa Jal says, that the tendency of the heart, there is a tendency to do some bad things. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبِّي, Allah Azza wa Jal says, and puts an exception, that there are few of those that Allah Azza wa Jal has protected. But subhanah does not do things randomly or haphazardly, that for some they will do their own checks and balances and others will not. It does not occur randomly. There has to be effort. Allah Azza wa Jal, through His justice, is that even this aspect, there is justice to it. That it doesn't just rahmah or the taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jal does not just fall into the heart randomly. Astaghfirullah, hasha, subhanah. But it goes through a process. The heart goes through a process. Imam Hassan al-Banna, rahmatullahi alayhi, one of the best scholars that our recent time has produced, rahmatullahi alayhi, actually says this and puts an analogy to this in saying that Adam and Hawa, when they were created in the world of perfection. And even in that world where there was very little temptation, and challenges that they could face, Shaitan was able to come through to them and deceive them. And so he says, how about us, you and I, that we live in this world with all these temptations that's around us? Certainly the heart is going to be affected, no question about this. But Subhanah has made the nafs of a mu'min, or of the human being able to raise itself, either to lower itself to a very low level or to raise itself tremendously high, higher than even the angels. Brothers, if you can just come into the front, inshallah, as brothers are coming in. So the nafs of this human being can actually raise itself to a level that's even higher than the angels. Because the angels, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. That they do not disobey Allah, and they just do whatever they're told. They're just programmed to do whatever they're told. They worship Allah, they obey Allah, they fulfill His obligations. But the human being has the choice. That is how different we are. We have the choice to do the good or the وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. Allah has given both the good and the bad to the human being. And it's up to us to choose. So if the person chooses to raise themselves, to work on that nafs, to raise themselves, Allah Azza wa Jal actually will make the angels serve the human being. And that is why it's with this concept that Allah Azza wa Jal, when He asked the malaika to make sujood to Adam, nothing special about Adam except that Allah knew through His knowledge that this creation will be given the option to do and not to do, and will be raising himself through obligation, through his fulfillment to the duties of Allah, will raise himself. And so asked even the angels to make sujood to the human being. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in hadith Muslim, an authentic hadith, says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ أَجْسَادِكُمْ. Allah does not look at your physicals and your appearances, or the way you behave, وَلَكِنْ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ. But into your heart. As complicated as the self is, and whatever things that we go through, bottom line, Allah looks at the heart. ولكن إلى صوركم. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam pointed with his finger 3 times, and he says, وأشار إلى قلبه التقوى ها هنا التقوى ها هنا التقوى ها هنا. That is the bottom line. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, taqwa is in the heart. And in another hadith in al-Bukhari, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, ألا إن في الجسد مضغة. That in this physical is a flesh. إذا صلحت صلح العمل كله. That if it becomes good, the entire person becomes good. And if it goes bad, the entire body goes bad. If it expires, the entire body expires. Regardless of how successful we perceive things. But if it's not good, Allah Azza wa Jal does not take it, does not accept it. It's expired. Allah Azza wa Jal on the day of judgment will hold us accountable by what this heart was able to generate in this dunya. And the tendency of the heart we talked about at the beginning. But there are a lot of things that we can do in order to nourish this heart and to make it ready for the day of judgment. The way Allah Azza wa Jal looks at the human being, my dear brothers and sisters, is that it's not just by the action. Because as you and I know that we go through so many different circumstances, 2 individuals sitting next to each other, whether 2 brothers or sisters or 2 individuals doing the same act, Allah Azza wa Jal does not deal with them equally at all. And it's because it's the circumstances that people go through. An individual could be under tremendous circumstances that person goes, while the other one is just doing things optionally. And so Allah does not handle things the same, even if it's for the same act. Can you imagine Allah through His mercy? And wallahi, you ponder and think about this. And I ask wallahi myself first, and my dear brothers and sisters, especially with this khutbah, because we're talking about the heart, the individual. Especially because of this khutbah, as you hear this message, disregard everybody else that's around you. The khutbah is actually directed to me personally, Khaled, and to Diya, and Ahmed, and Muhammad, and Umar, and Steve, whoever is listening. It's directed to the individual. It's not to the person next to you. So when you listen to these, do not say, Wallahi, the person next to me does these kind of acts. No. If I may request you humbly, evaluate yourself through these words, inshallah Azza wa Jal. It's Allah's words. And so let's evaluate ourselves as we listen to this. Can you imagine Allah with His mercy? And His mercy is extremely tremendous. And yet Allah Azza wa Jal says, and listen to this, في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا. Allah Azza wa Jal is the most merciful. And He says there are some category of individuals that in their heart is a sickness. Allah will increase them with sickness. Ya Allah, Allah the merciful is going to increase sickness in the hearts of individuals. How bad could that heart have reached for Allah Azza wa Jal to even push it forward into sickness? So there is that level of individuals. Allah Azza wa Jal in another ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, we read this frequently every Jum'ah, and He says, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً أَن يَفْقَهُوا. That we have put in their heart a shield, a covering, if you will, that they cannot understand, beyond which they do not comprehend. Ya Allah, to this extent the heart could solidify. In another ayah, Surah Al-Munafiqun, Allah Azza wa Jal says, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا ثُمَّ كَفَرُوا. And it's because they have believed initially and then they became kuffar. فَطُبِعَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ. And Allah has sealed it on their heart, that it's not to recover. Subhanallah. Having said this, this is just one extreme category that Allah Himself has taken it, that Allah Azza wa Jal will further mislead them and put sickness and more illness in their heart. On the other hand, in contrast, Allah Azza wa Jal says for those that give the bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jal is being pleased with the mu'mineen. إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. When they gave the covenant, the pledge under the tree. فَعَلِمَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. It's not just the act. It's not just giving the covenant. Allah knows what's in their heart. فَعَلِمَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ فَأَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةِ. Allah Azza wa Jal put the peace and tranquility in their heart. In Surah Qaf, how beloved this surah is, subhanallah. مَنْ خَشِيَ الرَّحْمَنِ. For those who are Allah conscious and they fear Allah. مَنْ خَشِيَ الرَّحْمَنِ وَجَاءَ بِقَلْبٍ مُنِيبٍ. And has come with a heart that's continuously repenting to Allah. The mistakes could be there, but the heart is always willing to go back to Allah, looking for the correct way of doing things. مَنْ خَشِيَ الرَّحْمَنَ وَجَاءَ بِقَلْبٍ مُنِيبٍ. Allah Azza wa Jal says. Allah Azza wa Jal does not take us with just the acts. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَكِنْ مَا تَعَمَّدَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ. That if you intend intentionally to do the bad things, that's when Allah Azza wa Jal will hold you accountable. And so these are two extremes. Allah is very pleased with a group of individuals on the other hand, and He is willing to forgive. Even if they do bad things, unless they intended it, He is willing to forgive. On the other hand, Allah could even mislead some people. Probably we Muslims, on the average, I would say, I'm sure there are the good ones that inshallah Allah classifies them among the good. Inshallah we're amongst them. But on the average, Muslims are somewhere in between. You and I are somewhere in between these two. That we struggle back and forth. This is probably where we classify ourselves. Wallahu a'lam. And so, for you and I, that are continuously challenged with softening this heart, what are the barriers? Because unless we understand these barriers that are between us and this softening of the heart, on the Day of Judgment, wallah, we have failed. So what are these barriers? First one, and if you divide them, there are actually two categories. They're very simple. What we call shubha and shahwa. Shubha are misconceptions. Subhanallah, there are times wherein we do not come to the deen, we do not love it, we do not adhere to it, we do not do what Allah Azza wa Jal has told us simply because of our misconceptions. We just don't understand the beauty of this deen. You read the Quran, how it's structured. You read how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has sacrificed and those that have come after him. Wallahi, there is, once you reach that and you understand what they have gone through and the beauty of it, there is a tendency to wallahi follow that. But because of our busyness and misconceptions sometimes, and whatever things that have been said about Islam, even though we don't want to take it, but it affects us, misconceptions, there is that, it does not really reach the heart. The beauty of it does not reach the heart. These are misconceptions. And Allah Azza wa Jal, subhanah, Allah Azza wa Jal, Wallahi, is merciful. For those individuals that it's a matter of misconception, because it's not intended not to follow Allah Azza wa Jal, because of this misconception, Allah Wallahi is forgiving. Allah is forgiving. You think about those people that have been in this, that have been non-Muslims, because of their misunderstanding. Allah Azza wa Jal give them the hidayah eventually. And you and I, among so many others out there, because inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, ask Allah Azza wa Jal, there is at least that willingness to come to the deen. Allah Azza wa Jal guides a lot of people. And what mercy we see in this dunya is wallahi very little. And inshallah in the akhirah is even more. This is for this group of individuals who, due to misconceptions or non-understanding of this deen, we kind of are lazy to move forward with this deen. But there is the other aspect, which is the desires, the shahwa. Due to our desires, kind of subhanallah, it does not reach the heart. When you look at desires, it's one of two categories, my dear brothers and sisters. Wallahi, not my words, these are what the ulama have said. The desires are one of two. Either weakness in the individual. So you have good understanding of the deen, you just happen to be weak. You're in the wrong environment, you're in the wrong place, it does not reach you. There is weakness in this. And Allah Azza wa Jal, wallahi, weaknesses, inshaAllah, Allah Azza wa Jal will, with work, which we will talk about how to treat this aspect. Allah Azza wa Jal will inshaAllah guide. But there is another aspect of desires, which is the arrogance, the ego that's in the oneself. When the person does not even will to go under the commandments of Allah. وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ إِلَّا بِعِلْمٍ مِّنْ عِنْدِي. I did this because of my knowledge. We heard Qarun say this. But wallahi, how frequent do we say this in our acts? Either because of the degrees that we get or the houses that we own. And a lot of us, for the most part in this community, a lot of us are immigrants. And we're much better off since we came to this land than we were when we were back home. A lot of us are much better off. And subhanallah, whether we like it or not, some of us, that has affected our heart. And you almost put yourself a little bit above the commandments of Allah. Astaghfirullah, inshallah, none of us here. But there is that tendency. There is that tendency. Whether it's arrogance through that ego in the self, or even riya sometimes, when you will only do things because others are watching you. It's that nafs. These group of individuals, it's very serious. It is this group that Allah Azza wa Jal says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضٌ. Not the other categories, not the misconceptions, not the weaknesses, but the ones that have arrogance to even follow the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ بل هي كالحجارة بل أشد قسوة. Allah Azza wa Jal says, it's even worse than the stones. The heart, can you imagine? Allah does not exaggerate. Allah says that the hearts are worse than stones, than rocks. Subhanallah. كلا بران على قلوبهم. That's where also the ayah came, that Allah Azza wa Jal has put a shield or a barrier for them to understand. Inshallah, the purpose of the khutbah was not just to classify things. Inshallah, we're going to talk about what you and I can do, inshallah, to soften this heart. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. My dear brothers and sisters, inshallah Azza wa Jal, to make this very practical, let's see what Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to do in terms of this art, or what potential things we can do to counteract the challenges that face us between us and Allah Azza wa Jal. For inshallah, we're going to first of all see how Allah Azza wa Jal summarizes things. Allah Azza wa Jal in Surah Al-Shu'ara, wallahi, the best of summaries. And for those that are involved in research, many times when we write our journals and research papers, at the abstract, you have to have a summary. That summary is a summary of that journal, more or less, or that paper that you've written. Allah Azza wa Jal in Surah Al-Shu'ara says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. That on the day of judgment, nothing will count. Nothing. And wallahi, you can see, if all the things that we've come here and we've accomplished, alhamdulillah, and inshallah they were in the obedience of Allah. But if they were not, Everything that's accomplished, Allah just puts it in a nutshell, in summary. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. The money and the siblings, the children, whatever it is that you have got, it's worthless. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Except for those that have come with sound heart, with clean heart, Allah Azza wa Jal says. The first approach, my dear brothers and sisters, and this should be the theme of our life, where Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Fatir, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًا. The theme of our life is, Shaitan is my enemy. Whatever, I will do my best to counter the thoughts that Shaitan brings in my heart. That's the theme. But for practical purposes, what are the things that we can do? Ulama have actually recommended 3 steps. These are not 3 categories, 3 different categories, but steps. One follows the other. Some of them are actually a very long process, but easy. While others are actually a short process, but very difficult. So let's inshallah talk about these 3 steps. The first one, my dear brothers and sisters, is for this heart to soften, and that's the purpose. For this heart to soften is to increase the good acts and shy away from or stay away from the bad ones. And subhanallah, the moment you do that, every act of that brings a sweetness in the heart. And every aspect of it softens the heart. Every good act. And let not the events be the purpose. It's not the events, it's not the service itself, but the impact that it has on the heart. So, because we can do a lot of events and a lot of activities, I mean, a lot of people do this. But unless it has an impact on the heart, unless it has a personal development aspect to it, it's useless. It's not the event. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَا أَجْسَامِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ. It's on the heart, the impact on the heart. And so, that should be we should do that a lot. Do a lot of good acts, and people are different. We will do some people are, donation is more appealing to them. Some people maybe working in the board, some people doing community service, youth doing some activities, some people make very good da'wah at work, and people are different. Whatever opportunity there is, grab it and just do it, because it inshallah will have an impact on the heart. Even when we see bad things and we refrain from them, even when there is an opportunity to gain financial gains, but due to haram and you stop from it, it would have an impact on the heart. Those are means. These are ways. This is the first method. This, by the way, as difficult as it seems, the ulama say that this is the easiest of the methods. It's the easiest, but it's a long process because the impact is very slow. Every time you do some act, there will be inshallah an impact, but it's a very long process. The next level, my dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, is once we do this act, we do what we call al-muraqaba wal-muhasaba, which is reassessment and re-evaluation of the acts that were done. So we do a lot of events and services and programs and so on. The higher level of individuals, my dear brothers and sisters, are those that sit after that and sit down and recalculate. Was this the best way that I have offered this? Was this partly because for people to see me? Am I giving this khutbah so that others will say good? And so on. That kind of talks that you talk with yourself, al-muraqaba wal-muhasaba, so that you can re-evaluate things and do it better the next time and so on. This is a very higher level of accountability. Can you imagine Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Azza wa Jal? This ayah we recite so frequently. So frequently we recite. Inshallah, if you can come a little bit forward due to some brothers being there, just tighten it up a little bit. Jazakumullah khair. Allah Azza wa Jal in this surah, in the last verses of Surah Al-Baqarah says, لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. That to Allah belongs the whatever is in the skies and on the earth. وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Wallah, how many times have I personally read this ayah? And wallahi, it did not click. And I love it. I love reciting it. But wallahi, how many times has it skipped the meaning? The meaning of this is that when this ayah was revealed, it was telling them, وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. That whether you show what's in your nafs, in your heart, or you hide it, Allah will hold you accountable. That's very serious. Abdullah ibn Abbas rahmatullahi alayhi radiyallahu anhu, actually what he said is, this was very difficult on the Sahaba, that Allah Azza wa Jal is holding us accountable for things that we don't do just because we thought of it in our heart. This was very difficult on them. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood that they were having a difficulty. So he told them, don't do like what the Jews have done when they were told to do certain things. So he told them, قولوا سمعنا وأطعنا. Just say that we listen and we accept. And that was the next ayah. وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. Oh Allah, forgiveness. We accept whatever you've told us. We will do whatever you said. سمعنا وأطعنا. And subhanallah, because of that willingness, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the next ayah, which is nullifying the obligation in the previous ayah. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. That Allah Azza wa Jal will not hold you accountable for what you cannot control. Something in your heart, the desires in the heart, Allah cannot hold you accountable. So Allah forgives you with that. That obligation is no longer. Ayah mansukha. Allah Azza wa Jal removed the obligation of the previous ayah. This is inshallah, the higher level, my dear brothers and sisters. When we do the acts, we try to make a more perfection the next time and so on. That's al-muraqabah wal-muhasabah. And that's where tawbah and istighfar, all these dimensions come under this category. When you sit and you see things and you say, that wasn't good. Let me make istighfar, let me make tawbah. And the next time, inshallah, I'll do better. It's under this category, my dear brothers. This is the second level. The third level, my dear brothers and sisters, is a shortcut. It's actually the fastest. It's an enzyme, if you will. You put that enzyme in any kind of activities or in any kind of muraqabah and muhasabah, Allah Azza wa Jal will have a tremendous impact on the heart. Transformation, if you will, my dear brothers and sisters. This is not exaggeration. When you look at what Umar ibn al-Khattab has gone through, between a day and night, a transformation in his life. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, among the Tabi'een. And then later on, many of our Muslims in this land, when they were non-Muslim drug addicts or alcoholics and so, in between the day and night, Allah transforms, changes their life. How have we worked on our heart and we have not made that kind of accomplishment? But subhanallah, that level is there. So who are this group of individuals? How can I do this? It is actually a shortcut, but wallahi the most difficult. It is the point, my dear brothers and sisters, when the person becomes selfless, egoless, completely. When you do things completely for the sake of Allah. And this is, by the way, this is accomplishable. It's not something that Allah haphazardly just gives it. It is these individuals that sit before Allah Azza wa Jal and do things for His sake. People that go qiyam by themselves. And they sit before Allah and they just ask Allah, Ya Allah, do whatever is best in my life. Ya Allah, I give myself to you. And that's why people like this, when they even make dua, they don't ask specific acts. They don't say, Ya Allah, give me this car, or give me this house, or give me this degree. They don't. Higher consciousness of Allah Azza wa Jal at this level, people just sit and they say, Ya Allah, give me whatever is best. You know what is best for me. Oh Allah, guide me. That selflessness, my dear brothers and sisters, when the heart becomes so peaceful with Allah Azza wa Jal, has a tremendous impact. I will end with this, inshallah. A story by, and probably all of you have heard it. This Sahabi radiallahu anhu comes into the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is sitting with the Sahaba. Picture this, wallahi. This is a fact that happened because the hadith is sahih. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is sitting with the Sahaba. And he tells them, there will come unto you a person will just come in. He's from the people of Jannah. And people, as soon as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said this, they're expecting one of the higher levels of, higher ranks of the Sahaba to come in. And they see somebody who's just, the people didn't even know who he was. He just comes and sits. People were surprised. The next day, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says the same thing. And the same individual comes in. And the 3 days, the same individual would come in. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anh, was puzzled by this. What is it? I mean, we know all the Sahaba. What is it about this individual? So he comes up with a story. And he says, Umar ibn al-Khattab kicked me out of the house and fabricated some story just for the sake of understanding what this person is going through. So this person says, just come to my house and you can stay with in my house. So he goes and stays with this person, with the Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Umar. And he sees him for several days. Nothing particular. Qiyams, nothing special about the qiyams that he does. No fasting. He does his obligations. And so after 3 days, Abdullah ibn Umar said, I give up. Just tell me, what is it that you do? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, 3 days, a person from Jannah will come in, and you just came in. And I want to know what's up. He said, I don't know. There's nothing special. But he says this: if there is anything that when I go to sleep, there's nothing between me and any other human being, I forgive. That's selflessness, my dear brothers and sisters. Whatever it is, how much grudge that sometimes a person, whatever it is, regardless of how bad it is, person is willing to give up. So this selflessness, my dear brothers and sisters, is not only with Allah Azza wa Jal, or that we have kibr to worship Allah. No, not only that. So these individuals are selfless to the point that they would worship Allah with all His obligations. But not only that, but even with dealing with human beings, our fellow human beings, extreme humbleness in that whatever you see, regardless of how bad it is, that a given person you see, you could say that this person might end up better than I am. This is why Abu Bakr as-Siddiq rahmatullahi alayhi radiyallahu anhu, when he said that if one of my foot is already in Jannah, I don't know what else would happen. It's just extreme consciousness that Allah Azza wa Jal is at the end the decision maker in all this process. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to wallahi soften our heart and bless us, inshallah Azza wa Jal. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل القرآن الكريم ربيع قلوبنا ونور أبصارنا وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب همومنا وغمومنا. اللهم علمنا منه ما جهلنا وذكرنا منه ما نسينا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار على الوجه الذي يرضيك عنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين وأعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة.